Welcome to The Right Focus, a podcast for writers, newbies, and veterans, and everyone in between. We're hosted by M.A. Lee with the assistance of Remy Black and Edie Rooms, all from Writers Inc. Books. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Each episode lasts as long as it takes to fix a quick dinner, drive a short commute, or take a brisk walk. Resources and links are in the show notes. Visit us at therightfocus.blogspot.com. Now, on to this week's episode.
Hey, all right. Unmute.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing today?
Good. You can hear me, obviously. That's good. Good.
Yes.
Excellent.
I'm setting my timer. If you see me looking over to the side, it's to look at that. If
That's
I look
fine.
in this
That's fine.
direction, I'm not ignoring you. This is the big monitor.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm a radio person. I'm used to watching clocks and all that stuff. I'm a radio news anchor. My day job is as a radio news anchor, so clock watching is, part of my life. I have conversations all the time with one eye on the clock and the other eye on the person. So no big.
I got out of that habit because I would put my clock in the back of the classroom because when I was a teacher, and the students would be constantly turning around, and their turning around would remind me, you need to look at the clock too.
Yeah. It's
So
true.
now I
My
set
husband,
timers.
sorry, what?
Now I set timers.
That works. Yeah.
Yes.
My husband teaches college, and so the kiddies
Yes.
at this point they're all now staring at their phones going, yeah. They get caught looking at their phones in his class, though. It's all over. So.
Oh dear, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, he teaches broadcast writing and broadcasting, and you can't sit around playing on your phone when you're trying to learn how to do the thing.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. And they need to learn, especially in the interview process and with broadcast, they have to be in the moment totally.
You really do, yeah, because that one thing that is going to make the entire interview may happen that 1 second when you're looking away. If you're following, when you're in a live situation, you never know really what the thing is going to be that takes you in the direction you need to go. Even if it's like with me, sometimes I'll be on the air with, the newsmaker, the police chief or something. And the answer is, what's going on at the GWB today? Tell me what to tell people to stay away. Yeah, you think you're going to get your 3 bites and out, but you don't know that for sure.
Right. And it's always changing. And you never know when they've got a little thing in their ear, a little earphone in, and they're going to get information and you have no idea. And all of a sudden their eyes go way off and you think, oh, I've lost them.
Yeah, exactly. This is true.
Okay. So you're Kathleen Kalb. Kathleen Marple Kalb.
It's a Bronx A. Kalb.
Kalb.
Yeah, my husband's from the Bronx. They pronounce it Kalb.
Well, then we should use how he says it. I sent an email this week to a lady named Dee Dee, and the intuitive spelling, I checked everything on it. I knew it was sending to Dee Dee. Intuitive spelling changed it to Swede. And I'm going like, oh no, that's the worst problem. In all my 30 years, I never got a student's name wrong after I had it in my head, because when I was a kid, I had a student who never said my name right. I was Amberly, and my name is Emily. And it used to drive me insane why he wouldn't just make the effort to get that right.
Yeah, I've had my maiden name, Marple, is my maiden name. I was born Miss Marple. Yes, I really was. And so I was doomed to be a mystery writer. But so a simple 5-letter last name can be mispronounced and mangled in more ways than you can possibly imagine.
Yes.
Maple, Mangle, Marlowe, everything.
Yes, I totally get that. It's totally true. So you use technology in your daily life as a broadcast interviewer constantly. But how do you use that in your writing?
Most of my use of technology in writing has been through social media. I had to get really good, really fast at social media because I was a lockdown debut. My first book came out in April of 2020, and you may have noticed there was a lot of stuff going on at that time. Yeah.
If they found
And
your book, they had reading material.
yeah, if you were an established author, honestly, the lockdown was great because people wanted to read and people caught up on your series. And I mean, a
Hmm.
lot of people who had been out for a while or for at least a few books really did well. It was a good time for readers
Right.
if you were an established writer. If, on the other hand, you were a debut writer, it was not a great time.
Hmm.
And most of the conventional means of selling books were gone. You know, you couldn't go to this never happens for a debut author, but I had a signing at the Yale bookstore on pub day, which of course didn't happen. Oh my gosh. I mean, yes, 5 years later, I'm still crying about that. But so, the wall came down, the lockdowns
Hmm.
hit, and the only way that I could get the word out was social media.
Hmm.
And I, figured it out. I had accounts on all the major platforms because you do. But I
Right.
figured I'd be selling books in person. I figured I'd be out there, here, this is my book, buy my book, it's wonderful. None of that. So I had to learn how to do social media and do it effectively and get good at it and,
Right.
build the plane in the air and did, which was pretty cool. You learn as you go along. And I think weirdly, I think the pandemic helped because in a lockdown, there's nothing else to do.
Right.
You literally have very little else you do. You can't go out and run around. You can't go meet people. You can't go to the movies, whatever. You're just sitting there at home.
Hmm.
And so it focuses you on things in a way that a lot of other things don't.
That's true. Did you quickly find a favorite type of social media, and but now you have a new favorite?
At the time, yeah, actually, at the time I started, I think a lot of writers would tell you this. I think in the late teens, before it was bought, Twitter was a wonderful place for writers.
Right.
At that time, when I started in like 17, 18, it was a really great place for writers. There was this warm community and we all kind of pulled together. And also we have somebody figured it out. There's this great little trick where all of the writers followed each other. And so you kind of snuck out behind the barn and followed all the other writers and they followed you. And everybody got these great following numbers, which, impressed the agents and editors who
Right.
obviously didn't know about going out behind the barn and following each other. And so we all really helped each other. We said, we all made each other look really good. And with that, making each other look really good was also just this real sense of support and community,
Hmm. Right.
which I know people say social media is neither media nor social, and I get that. And there's you can make that argument, true. But in the middle of a lockdown, when you're not going out to see people and you're cut off from your colleagues and you're basically living in your basement, having any kind of community really made a difference.
You needed to at least reach out. I was very
Yeah,
lucky because I had a family that I could interact with. Here we
yeah.
all in one house, but the people who were alone just
Oh,
really
and that's
needed
been
to be able
awful.
to reach out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we had it was me, my son, and my son and I, the three of us and our cat. So we were kind of like we four. Um
and we all
and
loved the cat, but we hated each other.
yeah, pretty much there were days, yeah, but we did school in the room that I'm sitting in became the schoolroom. And it was the studio when I was on the air doing I worked from home for most of a year
Hmm.
and we were all trapped together and and then being able to reach out to other people who were having similar experiences, other writers who were sitting there banging their head against the wall going, I'm never going to get out and no one's ever going to read my book. And to be able to hear some, say to somebody else, yeah, maybe that's true, but we're here and you can talk to us. So Twitter, and particularly Twitter, because of the strong writing community at that point, was
Hmm.
really a lifeline. Yeah.
Right. But what is your favorite now?
I think it's a tie between Threads and Blue Sky actually,
Okay.
because if you had asked me 3 days ago, I would have said Threads, no question,
Hmm.
because Threads is a little bit smooth. They've smoothed out the edges, and it's a little bit more. I don't know what your experience has been with Threads,
I'm not
but
on it. I'm not on
okay,
Blue Sky either.
okay. My sense with Threads is that they've worked out more of the bugs than they have with Blue Sky, which
Hmm.
kind of makes sense because it belongs to Meta. But in the last like 3 or 4 days, like the last week, a huge number of writers have been going over to Blue Sky. And it's like the
Oh.
writing community has picked up and moved to Blue Sky. And even though there are still some quirks and some glitches and a little hiccup here and there with the way it works,
Hmm.
the vibrancy of that community is starting to rebuild itself, which is really nice.
Right. Okay.
So it's
That's
a
good.
tie. Yeah, it's a tie between Threads and Blue Sky because between the two of them, you get that same vibrant community, which is awfully nice.
Now, I would think that as a broadcaster, you would be enamored of Instagram or TikTok.
TikTok, I'm a radio broadcaster.
Hmm.
I don't appear on camera
Hmm.
during my normal day. We have cameras in the newsroom. We don't use them.
Right.
Unless there was some dire situation where they would need us to go live
Hmm.
an affiliated TV station. We don't use the cameras in our newsroom. Um, so I'm not really comfortable on camera.
Hmm.
So TikTok is not something that I'm really thrilled with. As far as Instagram goes, I love Instagram because I love the visual.
Hmm.
That's fun for me. I did not know until I started doing social media posts that I was good at manipulating and creating images and using Microsoft Paint, which I know Canva's better. Everybody tells me Canva's better, do Canva. I use Microsoft Paint because that's what I'm comfortable with.
Hmm.
And I discovered this huge trove of vintage images in the New York Public Library digital collections. And so my social media feeds have a particular look that's it's historical. It's to go with the historical mystery. My social media feed uses a lot of these vintage images and I do things with them and stuff. And it's fun and it looks great. So Instagram's great.
Hmm. What other tech do you find yourself using as you're writing? Do you
Um,
use the Pacemaker app that Sisters in Crime is using, or anything
yeah,
like that?
for the November marathon, I'm using
Yeah.
it for the November marathon just as a way to keep track of things.
Hmm.
Um, it's good. It's very good for that. We don't need to have the whole discussion about why there's a separate November marathon and the whole nano thing.
No, no,
That's a whole
avoiding.
nother thing.
Yes.
But the pacemaker stuff seems to be good. Most of the people I know are much more techie when it comes to keeping track of their work than I am. I
Hmm.
am pretty basic. I keep just a standard file of my short stories, listing when they were published and that kind of thing. And with my book series, I have outlines and I outline and I have synopses of each one
Hmm.
with the major characters listed. So I can, if like today I was writing the next Grace the Hitmom book and I needed to find the name of the judge and a DA who would be in court with Grace today. So I had to open up the manuscript of the first one and find the name of that judge. I knew she was
Yeah.
there. I knew who she was. I could think of her, but I couldn't come up with her name. And I know some people have, the software with the lists and the Bible of all the characters. And I think it's great for people that works for. That's
Mhm.
wonderful. I'm just not one of those people.
It's not for me because, well, number one, I don't have time for the learning curve.
Yeah.
So I do
Yeah.
everything like that, paper based, because I can, and I store that with the manuscript when I'm
Right.
finished.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. That's a great idea. Yeah.
yeah,
And I'm
and then I can
also,
just pull it out.
yeah, I am a huge fan of track changes
Hmm.
in Microsoft Word.
Right.
I was helping my son edit a piece for my son is 14 and he's in ninth grade. This was his first high school essay. I was
Hmm.
helping my son with his first high school essay, not doing any of the work for him, just
Yeah.
letting him bounce lines off me and that kind of thing. And he was telling me how he did the peer edit and how he has to turn in all four drafts in
Right.
paper. And I said, "Oh, isn't there a track changes function because they use the Chromebooks?" And apparently there isn't.
Ah.
And I can't imagine because I love track changes because
Hmm.
that's kind of the standard in traditional publishing mostly. And I suspect that a lot of people who work with contract editors outside traditional publishing as well. And track changes is great because you can see right away what happened, who did it. If somebody has a suggestion for you, you can comment on it and answer that question right away. It's great. I don't know why you would do anything else.
Right. Well, so when I'm making revision, I have my original, I have my first draft, but I can also see, because I do a printout, I can see where I made my changes. And so that sort of tracks changes for me as well. But
Right.
you're
Yeah.
able to do that in Microsoft, aren't you? Because you can go back to
Yes.
the original
Yeah.
historical document and the current document through
If
track
you
changes.
write in Word, yeah, if you write in Word and you activate track changes, it'll
Mhm.
track each round of changes. And if you're somebody like me who never has a traditional first draft because
Mhm.
I wrote 1,000 words today. I will edit I will edit that to and clean up all the big howling stuff tomorrow
Mhm.
morning before I get into writing, because that gets me into the writing process. That's how I get
Yeah.
into the day's writing.
Mhm.
So I never have a first draft in the conventional sense. Not that that first, not that the final is ready to submit. It's not, but it's also not a first draft in a conventional sense.
Right. Now, you talked about the fact that you do an outline. Do you use something to get you started, like Plotter or any other tech?
I don't. I just open a Word file and write it out. I'm I could call myself a semi-pantser, which sounds
Okay.
like it sounds like the superhero in a middle school graphic novel. But the semi-pantsers but I just open up a Word file and write an outline about a couple hundred words about, because usually when I start a story, I have the open and the close, and then I need to find a roadmap to get there.
Right.
I'm a mystery writer mostly, primarily.
Mhm.
And so you're always, so it's really like building a case or following a fact line, and and each piece has to be put in.
Right. I usually start with the idea of the story, and
Uh-huh.
I know where I want to start, I know where I want to end, and then I totally start pantsing.
Yeah.
Somewhere around chapter 6 or 7 or so, I get stumped and I have to back up and then just do like a little jot list of ideas. This
Yeah.
is where I think I'm going to go in the next 3 chapters or so. And then I
Yeah.
start writing again. And that I find
Yeah.
that helps.
I have notes in the body of each chapter. In the body,
Mhm.
I start the whole novel starts in an ideas file.
Mhm.
The one I have right now is called Murder on the Sea Otter Express, and the Grace books all riff on classic. The first one is Wrong Poison, a riff on Strong Poison. The one that's
Yes.
coming out in March is Hound of the Bonnevilles. So I had to come up with something that was a really good follow-up to that in terms of a title, and Murder on the Sea Otter Express made sense. So anyway, I have this file with and I write each chapter sort of in order as I get it. And
Mhm.
then when I think of a scene and I don't have time to write it, I just put in italics, Grace talks to her new client here, that
Right.
kind of thing. And then somewhere around 25,000 words, about a third to a third to a half, about a third of the book. Um, I realized that I got to make a timeline, and that's what I and so that's separate from the synopsis. The synopsis is
Mhm.
just, it eventually becomes the thing that could be like the blurb, because
Right.
it's
Mhm.
this happened, and we get to there. The timeline is by chapter, each
Right.
chapter, what happened in each chapter, and that's when it gets really serious, and you're really building the case. For I'm really building the case.
Right. Do you start with, I know I had a fellow member of a sync chapter. She gave me like a little handout of like you would have this many red herrings, and this was your true villain, and then here are the clues that could make this red herring the
Yeah.
murderer, uh, and here are the actual clues that you need to pay attention to but hide, you know, kind of thing.
I'm not that precise. I mean, to me, that sounds like dancing about architecture. I mean, you're turning something that is supposed to be a fun experience of writing a book into a crossword puzzle.
Right.
And for people that works for, Godspeed. I'm happy for
Hmm.
you. I'm glad it works for you. I'm much more intuitive.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
I if a lot of times I will get something that is like the big twist at an odd time and have to go back and change everything back to change it.
Hmm.
In one of my books, I actually got what was the big twist in the final scene, like 90% of the book in. It was almost done, and I was
Hmm.
ready to start editing, and I thought, no, this is what has to happen here. And then I had to go back and embed all the pieces of that, and it worked.
Yes.
It worked, and it
Yes.
was there, and the people who read it actually really liked that particular twist.
Hmm.
But getting it was a bear. So, because
Yeah.
I didn't think of it at ground level. I thought of it at the very end when I was writing that final scene. And I thought, gee, it would be great if
Right.
let's try. And that was where then I had to go back and thread it all in.
So when you've got your manuscript to what you think is the final, do you run it through anything like Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid, any tech
I
tool like that?
use I use Word, and I believe in and the great downfall with Word is not that there's anything wrong with Word, it's that people don't trust it.
Right.
If Word tells me there's something wrong, I believe it, and I try to fix it right in Word during the early editing process.
Mm-hmm.
And so most of the time I turn in a pretty clean manuscript just doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
I see as I'm typing along, I see the red under squiggles and the
Right. Yes.
green
Yes.
squiggles, and I pretty much ignore them until it comes time for, going through that chapter and washing through and making sure.
Exactly. I ignore it when it's happening, but then on the second pass, because usually they may not be right with a particular, like a character name or a particular expression. Some of the I don't know about you, but some of the expressions I grew up with are not standard English, and they give word fits. One of my main characters is from Western Pennsylvania, like I am, and every once in a while she'll use an expression that makes perfect sense to her, and word goes. So, but I'm also the despair of copy editors everywhere for that very reason. But yeah, I think word is pretty good that way. And I worry with things like Grammarly and stuff like that they're gonna change the voice of the character.
Right.
I worry about, and I write first person. So I think that makes a difference because you got to be really careful
Your
about
character the voice is very strong in first person. You don't want it changed at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and so usually I do run into that when I submit a piece and I run into the first editing. There'll be things somebody might not get. One of my characters is Scotch Irish, and everybody I deal with corrects it to Scottish Irish, or there is no such thing. Scotch is a beverage. And usually I don't go into battle over it and I just say, okay, fine, we'll just call her something else. But it's how she thinks of herself. It's how I think of myself because I'm Scotch Irish.
Well, that's how I grew up saying that.
Yeah.
That's how my granny said it. That's how my grandpa said it.
Oh, you too, huh?
Yeah.
Yes. It is real. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because everybody every editor I've run into, with the exception of a couple, goes, Scotch is a beverage. No, it's my family, you idiot.
I know what grammar is supposed to be. I do, because I taught
actually, that's exactly what
I also know what they said, in the early 1900s. And they said what their parents and their grandparents said.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I actually said that to, I ran into that with a recent edit for a book that's coming out next year. And I said, I'm changing it because it's distracting. I'm not changing it because you're right.
That's true. Do you use the headings in Microsoft Word? Because I find that so essential.
Yes, I did I actually recently put out a novella all by my little self, self-published a novella as a free promotional item for to promote my series, my Gilded Age, the historicals. I had a story that I wrote that I couldn't sell because it was 15,000 words, wrote it for a contest, didn't place, couldn't sell it.
Right.
Okay. So I'll put it out as a novella for people who read the books. That could be fun, right? So I had to learn all of the things that are related to Kindle and draft to digital publishing from the ground up, so I could do that. And I love the headings, and I love the table of contents. I had to learn it for this, and I loved it. It was great. I agree. They're great.
They're excellent tools. Microsoft. I've been with Microsoft Word since 3.11, and I thought that was a phenomenal program. And I still go back and say that was fantastic. That was that. They have made it so much better.
Yeah, I started writing as a 16-year-old with an electric typewriter. So, I love I've kind of grown with Microsoft with Word. I mean, that my work and writing I've kind of grown with Word, so I'm really comfortable with it. And I'm pretty bad. If I can't find something, I'll just Google it. I'll just go online and look for a fix. Find it because a lot of the websites. Techie websites will tell you how to do something. If it's some obscure thing that you don't know how to do, they'll tell you. There'll be an article online that says, do this. Thank you. Solves the problem.
Yes, exactly. It's not difficult. I know that there are some things like HTML code. I'll never figure out coding.
Oh, no, I'm not.
My brain just does not work that way.
No,
and so when I was doing my website, everybody was promoting write your own coding. And I'm going like, no,
No, no,
there's
no,
got to
no,
be
no,
an
no.
easy way to do this.
Yeah, I did my website with the help of the host, the company that hosts it.
Mhm.
It was not, it probably cost me a little more, but you know what? It's clean, it looks nice, and I can use it.
Right. And you can
And
update it anytime you want to.
I do every week. I put my blog up there every week, and it's fine. It's very, very easy and straightforward, and I
Mhm.
can post the blog, I can post the blog, and then I can share the link all over wherever, and it's great.
Right.
It's simple.
Right.
And it does, I'm not endorsing any particular web host, but whatever web host you use, if they have software that enables you to build your own website and stuff, why not use it? You're paying for it, you might as well use it.
And their business is to make you look good. They're not going to
Right.
deliberately mess you up.
Exactly. And they have a lot of these things, like a lot of these websites where they have where the builder is attached, you get the builder with this, you get
Mhm.
the whole package. They will have things that tell you can't do this. That doesn't, if something flags that it's not going to look right or it's going to be problematic, it'll tell you that, this is too big or the resolution's too low or you need to,
Mhm.
and the previews are good too, because you can see how it's going to look.
Right.
And if it looks rotten, then don't do it.
Okay. Okay. I'm looking at my timer over here, and it says we have uh, about 5.5 minutes. So
Good heavens. How did that
I
happen?
want you to talk about your writing. So
Oh, okay.
note something. The air date will be sometime in late February.
Oh,
So is anything right on the schedule for that for
why,
you?
yes, coming up in March, I have actually in March, I have two books in one day.
Right.
Actually, Kathleen Marple Kalb, and my alter ego, Nikki Knight,
Mhm.
have two books coming out on the 25th of March. The first one is a Nikki production from Turner Publishing or Key Light Books, which is Hound of the Bonnevilles. It is the return of Grace the Hit Mom, who is really a nice suburban mom who kills people.
Oh my.
No, she's a consecrated assassin, and she belongs to this order of very nice ladies who remove very bad men.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah, and she is just an absolute blast to write.
Mhm.
And in this one, she's defending somebody who she's coming back into her original job as a lawyer. She's working with her husband to
Right.
defend a woman accused of killing her husband. And
Mhm.
the problem isn't this murder. The problem is the woman's first husband, who Grace knows she had her killed because Grace killed him.
Oh dear.
And so Grace is pretty convinced throughout most of the book that she's been drawn in by a Black Widow, and that this woman used the sisterhood
Mhm.
of assassins to do her dirty work. And so Grace is now in this, and of course she can't say anything about it because it's a secret thing.
Right.
And
Mhm.
so she has to defend this woman to the best of her ability with her husband watching, and her husband doesn't know anything about her job, about what she's doing. It doesn't, her husband is clueless, and which is part of the fun. And so Grace has to defend this woman who is a real described as a Karen to volume 11, with apologies to everybody named Karen,
Mhm.
who runs around with a purse dog named Precious.
Please tell
And
me. Please tell me. A Yorkie, not a Chihuahua.
uh, no, a Russian terrier. There's another word in there. It's a special kind of Russian terrier
Okay.
that was bred to kill rats. And it's about this big. It's a little bit thing. And her name is Precious. That she has a long official
Mhm.
name.
Right.
And Precious spends most of her time in Sherry's purse. And the fun part is that we have Precious, who's this teeny little dog, and then we have Grace's own dog, who is this giant butterscotch colored mutt named Scotchy, who spends the whole book killing Grinches and blow up Grinches and blow up snowmen because he thinks they're friends. He thinks he can make friends with them, and so he's loving them to death. So he kills these. He keeps knocking out these inflatable Grinches and things on people's lawns over the course of the book. And so we have these two dogs. And then Precious, and I'm not going to tell you, but Precious does something very, very interesting at the end of the book that is great. So Precious has some fun. And that's Hound of the Bonnevilles.
Hound of the
Uh,
Bonnevilles.
and there is a hound and there is a Bonneville. So, and that's coming on March 25th from Key Light Books.
Okay.
As myself, I have The Stuff of Mayhem, which is the Old Stuff book 2 in a
Mhm.
series involving widowed Christian Shaw, who is a historian, who solves mysteries involving old things, not antiques, just old things that might be at the Historical Society. In this
Right.
case, the old things involve that we go through everything from like artifacts found at an alleged Revolutionary War site, a cannon that explodes, killing somebody at the 4th of July party, and a bunch of things like that.
Right.
And so, and that one's fun. And that one ends with the bar mitzvah of a bat mitzvah, sorry, of a 90-something lady who is a friend of everybody, who is like the matriarch of the town. And it ends up in this wild scene at the bat mitzvah, and it's fun.
Well, good, great. And that one's as Kathleen Kalb.
That's it. That's right. That's under my real name. Yep. And it's the stuff of mayhem. And that one's from Level Best Books, which is a wonderful place that I has picked up my historical series and gave me a shot with this new series. So
Okay. Now these two books, did you list them in your bio?
they're probably not in my bio because they're not out yet.
Send them to me. Both.
I will say I have art for both, so I'll send you the art and everything. As soon as we get off, I'll send you the info on those because I have what I call BBL sheets, blurb, bio and link sheets for both. So I'll send you the basic info on both.
That way I can put them both
Don't
in
have
the show notes.
ISBN numbers. I'm sorry?
I can put them both in the show notes, and
Thanks.
the audience can find that information.
I have a buy link for Bonnevilles. I don't yet have a buy link for Mayhem because Level Best does a little closer to the mark.
Okay. But that we can do that. We can.
Great.
If you have an author page with Level Best.
I do.
Okay, send that. Do you have that link?
But the author page with Level Best hasn't really been updated since it has stuff of murder, but it doesn't have my historical on it, and it doesn't have
Okay.
I'll send you. Probably better to just send you my Amazon author page or my website,
Okay.
which has everything.
Okay.
I'll send you my website because it has everything of mine and Nikki's on it.
Okay, good. All right. Well, great. It was wonderful talking to you, Kathleen.
Yeah, great talking to you too. Thank you so much for this. Thank you. This has been great.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Write Focus, a podcast for writers at all levels, hosted by Emma Lee from Writers Inc. Books, assisted by Remy Black and Edie Runes. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Music is licensed through Audio Jungle, called Background Music Loop. Its creator is Alexander Polishchuk, known on Audio Jungle as Plastic 3. The music comes in different iterations. Show notes and resource links for this and other episodes can be found at thewritefocus.blogspot.com. Write to us at winkbooks@aol.com when you have questions, comments, and speculations. We will try to answer you as quickly as possible. By the way, we will not mind your email address. That's rude. If you find value in our content, share with your writing friends or write a review. We're small beans here without the advertising budget of the big peeps, and you can make a difference. And whatever occurs, write on.